Welcome back to Just One Question. And the real treat for this second round of Just One Questions, for the second part of the pandemic or the post-pandemic or whatever we're in right now, is that I get to go back to some of my favorite guests the first time around. And this is no exception. I am really thrilled to be coming back to Heather Hansen and greeting her again. Heather is a keynote speaker, a trainer, and a coach. She cut her chops in the legal world. She's the interesting go-to person for lots of good advice about legal, although I'm not going to say what kind of advice. I don't think she tells you what to do if somebody runs into your car or rear ends your car. I don't think that's her line of work. I think it's way more interesting than that. So we'll let her say. Anyway, Heather, how are you doing? Welcome to the show.
I'm so happy to be here, Nick. It's so good to see you.
Tell us what you're excited about these days as we make the aforementioned transition back into whatever it is we're transitioning into.
I'm really excited, probably overly excited about the work that I'm doing on perspective taking. You know, I love empathy. I have no beef against empathy, but I think that we have a strong emphasis on empathy and not enough of an emphasis on perspective taking. And there is a difference. You know, empathy is feeling what the other person feels. Perspective taking is seeing what they see. And I think as we return to work, some people see the return to work differently than others do. Some people see COVID differently than others do. Some people see politics differently than others do. And I know from my years in the courtroom, as you mentioned, that you can never, ever change someone's perspective until you can see it. And I also know from my years in the courtroom that I don't need to feel what my clients feel, their anxiety, their sadness, their fear, their confusion, in order to serve them well. So I'm really excited about bringing people back to this idea of perspective taking and the impact it can have at work, at home, in life, all over the place.
That's fantastic. And I really like the idea because it suggests there might be a path forward rather than just being stuck in these extremes, as you say, of a viewpoint where it's very hard for one side to empathize with the other. They don't want to take the risk of empathizing with the other.
Yeah, well, that's it. And they're afraid to, and studies actually show that when people talk about empathy, sometimes people just get exhausted by talking about it. And so they don't even try to feel what the other feels. But perspective taking is more of a game. And part of it too, I want to be careful here because the best way to take someone's perspective is to actually ask them. You know, it's more perspective getting than perspective taking. But these are all things that we can do. There's an active process for perspective taking that's more clear than empathy. And so I think that it does allow us some hope that we can actually meet in the middle on some of these things.
Absolutely fascinating. And give us just one quick example in the return to the workplace, where some people have been at work the whole time and never transitioned to virtual work. Other people, of course, immediately shut down and work from their living rooms or their bedrooms or their kitchen tables for 2.5 years. Some people had some sort of mix of those. What is uppermost? What should be uppermost in our minds as we try to bring this really complicated set of circumstances back together?
So in my work, I share the 5 C's that help us to do this. And I think that with respect to this issue, I would stress curiosity, asking questions. You know, tell me what it is that you like about working from home. Tell me what it is that you miss about the office. Tell me your vision of what the perfect mix of home and office work might be. For those people, you know, those in healthcare, those in service who have to be in the physical space, tell me how to make that easier for you. Tell me how to make that more fun for you. Tell us how we can help you to make that better. And I think that seeing things from that perspective, understanding how the other person sees it, allows us to come up with more creative, which is another one of those C's, solutions for any sort of blips that we see in this process. So curiosity is a huge part of perspective taking.
And that's just 2 of the 5 C's. Heather Hansen, thank you so much for being on Just 2 Questions, and I would love to know more. So we'll come back to you maybe if we may, and just check in once we're a little further down the line.
I'm always happy to talk to you, Nick.
Thank you. Heather Hansen, everybody.